Hello, I'm Jeff Thompson, President and CEO of IMA, the Institute of Management Accountants, and welcome to Unit 7, Monitoring Activities in our course, Improving Confidence in Sustainability Data. So monitoring activities follows the last unit on information and communication, and monitoring is the last of our 5 COSO components that we're going to be describing as it relates to internal controls for sustainability, performance, reporting, and data. So we're going to define the principles related specifically to the monitoring component, and then of course reference a live mini case example. So let's talk about principle 16. Look, when you step back and think about monitoring, it conjures up making sure that your system of internal controls is operating and functioning effectively and efficiently. And the reason monitoring is so important is because of change. The rate and pace of change is so rapid, especially in the technology area, globalization, geopolitical issues, et cetera, et cetera. So we may have a system of internal controls that is fit for purpose relative to a certain set of objectives and a certain risk profile. But because the environment is changing so quickly, the objectives could change and/or the risk could change, and certainly the internal controls are likely to change. So monitoring the performance and effectiveness of the internal control gauges is critically important for the system to be sustainable in and of itself. So, Principle 16, the organization selects, develops, and performs ongoing, so regular ongoing, and/or separate evaluations to ascertain whether the components of internal controls are present and functioning. Remember, the 3 criteria we look for in our principles of internal control are present, functioning, and integrated. Either ongoing, for example, if you have a manufacturing process or a financial transaction process that your very company relies on for its day-to-day existence, you may want to have continuous monitoring in the middle of the night, monitoring when the lights are out in one part of the world but on in another part of the world. So whether it's safety or the environment or the ability to have 24-hour transaction processing and servicing, that ability to have ongoing or continuous monitoring might be required. But in other cases, separate evaluations, periodic evaluations, daily, bi-weekly, bi-monthly may be totally appropriate. So let's talk a little bit more about monitoring activities. Much like we talked about with control activities, which was Unit 5, we employ a mix of ongoing and separate evaluations. It depends upon the need. If it's mission critical type internal controls that you want to manage the risk, then you probably want to use ongoing or continuous real-time monitoring or oversight of performance. If it's something that's not as material and perhaps not as mission critical, then separate evaluations might do the trick just fine. And it's always important to determine whether or not there is any kind of third-party assurance of sustainability information. Is it appropriate? Remember, sustainability information tends to be more subjective, more judgment-based, more qualitative, longer term. So the ability to assure that data through internal means, internal controls, internal, external audit, or third-party assurance providers is very, very important. So, Principle 17. The organization evaluates and communicates internal control deficiencies in a timely manner to those responsible for taking action. So, look, deficiencies and breakdowns are going to occur in your internal controls over either financial reporting or non-financial sustainability reporting. It's very, very important that you not only detect and report on those deficiencies, but they get to the right people. Is it the product group? Is it the technology group? Is it the marketing group? Is it the controller? Is it the audit? It depends upon the need, but it's not good enough to just identify the deficiency and the breakdown as you're monitoring either periodically or ongoing. It's important to report that deficiency because, you know, the old saying, we learn from our mistakes. Well, we'll have a much improved and more robust internal controls design if we are able to learn and grow from our mistakes. And so reporting to the right party who can take action and remedy the deficiency and sustain the correction over the long term. So the board is critical in this activity. The board obviously is the recipient of usually higher level material weaknesses or significant deficiencies. So if you have an external audit done, which of course all publicly traded companies do, IMA is a 501c nonprofit, also has an external audit. It's very, very important that the board be given access to how did the audit go? What were the findings? What were the material weaknesses or significant deficiencies? What were the comments? What goes in the areas for improvement? So the board can independently perform its oversight duty with a culture of challenge. And we must continuously monitor controls over the most crucial sustainability factors. If your company, if your societal purpose is dependent on natural resources, then you better be monitoring the availability and the inventory of those natural resources on a continuous basis, not just a periodic basis. So let's turn to our mini case here in monitoring activities. Host hotels and resorts, they use technology, very, very robust way to monitor utility data. By the way, Host Hotels is a real estate investment trust, a REIT it's often referred to, focused on luxury and upper scale hotels and resorts. It's traded on the US New York Stock Exchange in 2016. They had revenues of over $5 billion. And they started sustainability reporting in 2016 on their 10K, which is the annual filing that US public companies make with the Securities and Exchange Commission. They actually started reporting sustainability information in 2016 using SASB standards. SASB, as you might recall from earlier units, is the Sustainability Accounting Standards Board. They came up with metrics by industry that are material and decision useful for investors. And Host Hotels, Host Resorts was a first mover in reporting on these metrics voluntarily to the investing public. So, Host Hotels pursues sustainability as an avenue to enhance the value and sustainability, profitability of its portfolio. In other words, sustainability isn't just a nice thing to do or a compliance activity. Sustainability reporting is part of the fabric of generating value and profitability for Host Resorts stakeholders. Assess both sustainability-related risks and drivers of investor returns, especially in the areas of energy and water management. You might expect a real estate investment trust would be very focused on the balance, the financial balance, the profit, the ROI, and of course, the natural resource consumption factors. Green building technologies that help reduce expense and protect the environment. You can do both. You don't have to make false choices with technology and the right investment, and Host Resorts is certainly doing that. And finally, Host Hotels is using technology whereby utility information feeds back into their business intelligence system, which allows payback analysis and assessment of key energy and water products. So that concludes this unit on monitoring activities. Thank you.